Let's get right to the site. Every given Saturday tour takes us to Knoxville. Welcoming the host of the Late Kick, Josh Pate, joins us from Neyland Stadium, where it was rocking on this Saturday. What a game. Take me through the end-of-game management, though, of Billy Napier. Little confusing in terms of some of his decision-making end of game.
It was peculiar, I think is the best word I would use to describe it, Hakeem. Now, I went to his post-game press conference for a number of reasons, but I actually wanted to hear him defend that. And he said, we do the research, yada, yada, yada. We know what we're doing. Basically, don't second-guess me because I've got a calculator in my back pocket. Aside from that, he did own up to a number of those procedural kind of decisions in the game that he flat out said, I got to do better, man. I cost us. And not the least of which was the 15-yard personal foul down inside the 5-yard line that led to a Tennessee score. So, I mean, there were a lot of interesting dynamics that were on the procedural side of things. That's before you even look at the box score. The ending of that game, though, blatantly obvious. Tennessee knew they had a 2-score lead and really couldn't care less whether you cashed that Tennessee minus ticket, which I had in my back pocket, or not. So it's on fire somewhere over there. But they get the win, and the box score, it's just, I keep going to the box score, Hakeem, because it looks a little wonky. So if I were you, I would ask me about that box score. Back to you, Hakeem.
Well, let's ask you about the box score. Let's talk to you about the star of the box score, Hendon Hooker, a star in the making. He had 349 passing yards, the most passing yards by a Tennessee quarterback versus Florida since Peyton Manning in '97. He finished with 461 total yards, 3 touchdowns. You've seen him before. What stood out to you on this day against the Gators?
It's just there's a better grasp of the offense, I think. When we had him at SEC Media Days, Hendon Hooker sat there in that room with us, and he kept using the word fluidity. And what he was talking about was in regards to the question about how much better he could be this year. And he kept saying fluidity is the key to this offense. I've been in it now a whole year under Josh Heupel. I get it. I know where to look. I know what's coming. I can call the plays ahead of time. And that's exactly what it looked like when he was out there. Field general is a term that I've heard a lot of people start to use with him. Last year, he was just a guy who could put up numbers. Field general is a little bit different, Hakeem. That's when you're looking across the field from you and you know there's a guy over there who can single-handedly beat me. The good news is he doesn't have to single-handedly beat you, because even with Cedric Tillman out, let me repeat now, their best receiver out today, he put up those kind of career numbers. And of course, and deservedly so, you're going to start hearing a lot of conversation about Heisman this and individual awards, but it all links back to what Tennessee can do as a team. And he needed that kind of performance today. As it turned out, they needed every single one of those touchdowns that you talked about.
Give us your perspective from on the field, being at Neyland Stadium, one of the toughest places to play in all of college football, because it looked electric on screen.
Vintage Neyland Stadium, loudest I've ever heard it, and it was such a defining moment for Josh Heupel. It was such a defining moment for this program. It's still a young program under Josh Heupel, but it was such a release of emotion by this fan base. Now, Hakeem, if you had just walked up to college football this year, you didn't know the history of this series, you didn't know it used to be a huge rivalry, not just in the SEC, but college football, and you looked at the spread, and you saw Tennessee minus 10.5, and then you saw them, okay, well, they won. They didn't even cover. They just win by one possession. You would not have been able to make sense of what the reaction was around here. After they won, I'm telling you, it was as if they just clinched the SEC championship. It was as if they just clinched a spot in the playoff, because that's how much that game means to these people, and that's how much they understand how big and how, in some cases, insurmountable that Florida hurdle has been. And they've got a couple of more like that. They got a Georgia hurdle. They got a Bama hurdle. But this Florida hurdle, man, 16 out of the last 17 is no joke. And when they finally saw triple zeros on that clock and they finally knew we just won this game, it reminded me so much of when Arkansas beat A&M last year. Ironically, they're playing today, but it reminded me so much of that. Tears on the field, just an outpouring of emotion that, Hakeem, if you were just a casual fan, you'd say, what's the big deal? All you did is win a game. Some of these games mean a little more than others. This one meant a whole lot to this Tennessee fan base. They showed up. They showed out. Crowd noise was a huge factor in this game. It was electric. It's the best atmosphere and environment that we've been to so far this year, and we've seen some good ones.
Well, good thing for us, there's not a lot of casuals watching what we do week in and week out here on CBS Sports HQ. We're here for the invested fan. and we're invested in the fans. Tennessee beats Florida for the first time since 2016. Also, the Vols' last 4-0 start. Could you see Josh Heupel's kid challenging Georgia and Kentucky in the SEC East?
Yes, because when you can score, you can challenge anyone. Here is what to remember. When you're looking at Tennessee's schedule and you see it right now in front of you, okay, they've already got that first conference hurdle out of the way in Florida. They got a bye week. And as it turns out, it's probably scheduled at the appropriate time because they need to get guys like Cedric Tillman back. But they go to LSU next, and then they've got a home date against Alabama. And, Hakeem, it's easy to sit there in August and need several things to go right for that matchup to be an undefeated matchup here. But now we're several games into the season, and it's within earshot. You can see it on the horizon. That's going to be a big one. But what's very important is when you look at the Georgia side of that equation, not to overlook Kentucky, even though I kind of am for a second. When you look at the Georgia side of that equation, it's really important to note in what order Georgia plays these teams. They don't have it spaced out. Their toughest 4 opponents, in all likelihood, are coming back to back to back to back. And that's Florida, and that's Tennessee, and that's Mississippi State, and that's Kentucky. So I know everyone assumes that the East is decided and everyone's playing for runner-up. Let's be careful making those assumptions in September. May very well be correct, but let's just hold off. Let's write that in pencil in September instead of pen or Sharpie.
Yeah, I agree with you because it could be magical. And I know it's only Josh Heupel's second season there in Knoxville, but with a team they have and with a quarterback like that, we could be seeing some magic there at Neyland Stadium week in and week out as Tennessee beats Florida for the first time since 2016. Josh Pate break it down for us here on CBS Sports HQ. Josh, thanks. And for more awesome content, check out The Late Kick with Josh Pate, delivering college football the way you want it. I mean, you want to talk about a community that loves college football? This is it right here. And if you want to be a part of it, you jump in now, okay? Join Josh 3 times a week on YouTube, 8 Eastern time. You can also listen to the podcast version as well. The Late Kick with Josh Pate.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.